Welcome to Me Time with Mind Escape Vibe, where it is your time to be kind to your mind. I am so excited for my guest today. Dr. Jerry Johnson is the author of the book Imagine That Chronicles of an Urban School Principal. She is the owner and sole consultant for Educate You Consulting. Most recently, Dr. Johnson was an assistant professor for the Teachers College at Columbia University and founding principal of a pre-K through second grade school located in DeSoto, Texas. Before this, she was the director of education for the Community Impact Network, a nonprofit organization within the Normandy Schools Collaborative in St. Louis. Dr. Johnson, thank you for coming on. I'm looking forward to chopping it up with you today.
Hi, everybody. They call me Dr. J.
Dr. J, as in basketball, Dr. J?
It was a nickname that one of the teachers, one of my colleagues that worked with me gave me. And it just kind of stuck, one school year. So she had everybody in the district calling me Dr. J. So now that's what I go by most of the time.
I can dig it. So I always like to start the show by asking what mental victory vibe celebration you've done for yourself. That's an activity maybe you've done today or in the last few days to pour into your own cup. So what have you done for yourself lately?
That's an interesting question. What have I done for myself lately? I had a 30-second dance party by myself the other day.
I know that's right. That dance party is something else.
I have had to do by myself, girl. I turned the music up and I just started dancing because I knew that I needed a brain break. Mm-hmm. It was beginning to get overwhelming in my mind. Mm-hmm. Not around me, but you know what? Most of the time, it's not even our physical environment. It's that mental environment that gets cluttered. Because my physical environment, I'm kind of type A and OCD-ish.
So very clear about the type A, but OCD-ish. Yes. I can relate.
So mentally, I hold a lot of things, even though my physical environment is very much everything has its place and there's a place for everything. Mm-hmm. But my mental environment gets a little bit cluttered. So I have to do things to relieve that. Almost every day I work out, but there are times during the day, since I work remotely, that I'm here by myself a lot of time. And so I can do those types of things. 30-second dance parties are my thing. I used to do them at my schools. I come on the intercom every now and then and be like, okay, everybody, 30-second dance party. Let's go.
Well, that leads to my next question. What's your personal empowerment theme song? What you be dancing to?
I couldn't play all of those songs at school sometimes. Let's just put it like that. So I'm going to choose two that I actually Nuck If You Buck. Oh. And All I Do Is Win. All I do is win. Now, we did play that one year around testing time, to get the kids kind of hyped up on a testing day and stuff. So before they started testing on morning announcements, we played that and it got them in the mood to conquer the test.
Yes, I love it. That's actually a really good one to pick because sometimes, when I'm in traffic, I have to say, okay, Nuck if you buck if you want.
Right. Exactly. Girl.
I do look right on over, sunglasses and all. Nuck if you buck if you want to. And then
exactly. I told somebody in one interview, I said, I can be take me to the king and Nuck if you buck in 2.5 seconds. Okay.
It don't take much. Yeah, okay. What we doing? Oh, do I just need to lean on back and just put this one hand on the steering?
Exactly. That's what we're doing today,
right? I'm right there with you. I am so excited to talk about reinventing the empty nest with you because when I wrote the blog post and I started to think about all of the different things when I was blogging last year, that was like one of the biggest things for me. One of the biggest things that I dreaded was an empty nest and trying to figure out what I'm going to do when it all comes to pass. So I started kind of early when because I have three. So when they get
Right.
in high school and I start, okay, you go, I'll stay. You go, I'll stay. You go, I'll stay. To prepare myself for those days and those times when I am by myself most of the time. So I'm so glad to have you on so we can just have this conversation because I think we need to redefine how we look at the empty nest and what it means. And
Hmm.
I can't wait to get your take. Um, what do you, how would you define the parental consultant?
The parental consultant. Um, how can I say this? Just I would define it more as like thought partnership
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's parenting situation is different. For
Mm-hmm.
example, I was married at one point and divorced. So I became a single parent, in the parenting realm. For some people, they're married in their parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So my view on parenting or consulting people who are parents may be a little bit different because I'm coming from a single mom view. So it has to be like a thought partnership type thing, right? Because the things that someone who's married has, they have to co-parent with their husband, whereas I have to co-parent with my ex-husband, or some people co-parent with their, ex-partner or
Mm-hmm.
what have you. So, or baby mama, baby daddy, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So so the relationship may be a little bit different. The dynamics are different. Rather than you living in a house with someone every day versus not living in a house with someone every day and parenting. So I think that the parental consultant piece is more of, it should be a thought partnership, both sides coming together trying to figure out a workable, solution for that particular situation and parent.
I agree with that. I think that my take is coming as a single mom. I've been divorced for a long time. I got divorced in 2004. And at that point, I think mentally something clicked for me to say, okay, this is what I have to do. Let me figure this out and let me see how we can make it work. And of course, you go through trials and tribulations, but as you move from that provider mode, uh, truly providing and overseeing everything that's happening in your household to young adults,
Yes. That's
it's
a different type of parental consultant, right? That's a different, to me, there's different types, but that definitely is a different type. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no, no, no. I was actually about to move in on that because I was like, oh, there we go. There's the segue. So, what's your take on that parental consultant role? I know we have the co-parenting,
Mhm.
but when it comes to adult children and now mom and dad to an adult
Right.
child.
Yeah, it is different. And just like you, I have one child. She's 21 now. We have been separated, like not married for since she was 8 months old. So this is all that my daughter knows is our situation like this. She knows that we were married at one point before she was born and then when she was born. But when she was 8 months old is when we separated and then got divorced. So now that she is an adult, it is so much more of influence
Mm-hmm.
versus, just telling
Mm-hmm.
this is what we're going to do. So working on, I actually, read a couple of books on influence and things like that for leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with parenting. Like a lot of leadership books, a lot of stuff that has to do with, like parenting and relationships, period. So so for the adult child, it is a whole lot of, the foundation that you set when they were younger, hoping, praying, instilling instilling things in them that when they become adults, they remember those things that you taught them. And when they don't, you remind them of those things. This is what I taught you. Like this. But I can't tell my daughter
Mm-hmm.
what to do. You know, she can call me, she can say things. Many times I preface conversations with, okay, do you want me to help you solve this, or am I just listening?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I will say things and she just wants me to listen, but she hasn't communicated that to me, right? So I'm trying to help solve the problem, giving advice, but then she just wants me to listen, and then the whole conversation just blows up. So that's what happens with adult children sometimes, is that they feel like they're still your child.
Yeah.
One side of them is still your child because they're calling you for a reason, right? They're not calling
Mm-hmm.
you friends or whatever. But the other side is like, I can do what I want to do. You know, like, I'm an adult. You can't tell me what to do. When it is tied to, also, she's in college and her father and I pay for her housing because she got scholarships and things like that, but we still pay a small portion of, her college expenses. She, feels obligation to that. A lot of times she feels obligated to tell us about certain things because we do pay. But in certain instances, we don't pay for certain things. She like, I don't have to communicate that. Like, she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to give us access to records or transcripts or anything like that. Once she got in college, they considered her an adult. So, unless they give you permission to see all of their records and stuff like that, even medical stuff. I mean, she didn't have to let us see any of those things. So it's much more of an influence type of relationship than it is, this is what we're going to do and you have to do it because you're under my roof.
That's a very interesting thing that you brought up, especially when they're going off to college, because there will be some parents that's like, I want to know everything that's going on. It's not uncommon for a child to say, oh, okay, and not tell you a thing, right? And, as a parent, your feelings are a little damaged, a little sensitive because you're
Yeah.
like, but I was there for you all these years and we talked
Mhm.
about everything in high school and you're not
Right.
telling me. What advice would you have for those moments when, as a parent, we have a child in college and they're adults, they are adults,
Yeah.
um, and they're not sharing, but our feelings are just a tad bit hurt and we want a helicopter.
You better go pray about that. Because you need to let that go. Okay. Uh, Mom, Dad, let it go. Your child is old enough and you should have enough, how can I say this, confidence in yourself that you have instilled in them as their parent the things that they need to solve the problems that will come to them. And if they can't solve it, they know that they can come to you. So if they are not communicating about certain things, you have to think, could this be a situation of they feel shame because they didn't handle the situation in a way that they knew they should have handled it? I.e., if they having sex, drinking, drugs, all that type of stuff, they know they're not supposed to be doing that stuff, but they didn't got themselves locked up on a Friday where they got to be in jail till Monday. Who else can they call?
Right.
Except
Mhm.
for you. But they might not have wanted to do that, and you might not hear about it until afterwards
Mhm.
because they feel shame that they have to tell their parents that, knowing that they know better. So think about it from when you were in college, or you were not in college but out working on your own and had your own place and all this type of stuff. Take it back to what you did when you were their age and be realistic about it, because we have parents who don't want to talk about how they were when they were 21, 22,
Mhm.
23, because they feel some type of shame about the way that they acted. But you know what? If you communicate with your child the mistakes that you made, it's much more likely that they will not make the mistakes that you made, because they will know that they're not going through when they see the situation, they'll know how to handle it, because you told them, I handled it the wrong way. This is how I should have handled it. Somebody said the other day, if we don't talk about it, they can't be about it.
Mm,
One more thing, if we stay away from things, they can't come near to us.
mm,
And if we stutter about things, they can't be stable.
mm,
We have a lot of things about ourselves as parents that we need to take care of and own with our adult children. Because if we don't, they're going to make the same mistakes and keep repeating that cycle. That's just generational curses people talk about sometimes. You should want to be the generational curse breaker.
mm-hmm.
And we all mess up our kids. I say this all the time. We all mess up our kids in some way, shape, or form, and we really see it when they become adults.
Mm-hmm.
While they are young adults, let's have those talks and talk to them as if they are who we were when we were that age, and what we would have wanted somebody to tell us.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. Clearly, all three of mine are mirrors, and all three of them struggle with communicating. Now, they didn't just learn that.
Right.
When I was raising them as a single mom, I felt I had to be stoic and strong all the time. So I didn't always communicate when something was hurting me. So I didn't teach that to them. And they struggled in relationships with communicating, and to a point where I had to say, okay, I got to fix this. I was like, yes, I know that I did this when you were younger, but that's not the way to be. You
Exactly.
know, they're mirrors.
They absolutely, just like your husband or your
Oh, I don't have,
ex-husband
yeah, girl.
or
The
your
ex,
current partner,
you
they
almost,
all are mirrors.
I almost thought we were at happy hour. I was about to say something.
I hate to say it.
You
But
know,
yes, they are mirrors. The closest people to you in your life are typically your mirrors. Oh, and those statements that I said, those came from if you have you ever watched the show the YouTube show The Basement?
no,
His name is Tim Ross. He actually is a pastor. He and his wife are so awesome, and he has a show called The Basement, and he calls the people that watch the show the dwellers, the basement dwellers. But when I say he is real and raw as a pastor, I mean, when he said those three statements, I was like, ooh, he was snatching edges on this last on this last episode he had about single. He was talking to single people and divorced people. And I mean, he was just like, we gotta get ourselves together. But
I think that we do. I think we come from, you hear a lot of things and you actually see a lot of videos on TikTok where they say, where's Gen Z? They're very silent. Or
mhm,
you hear Gen Zers on TikTok, they're talking about how Gen Z grew up. And I am part of that generation. And part of that was being seen and not heard,
hello. Yeah, that was me too.
you know?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
when you have to move from being seen and not heard to being seen and heard,
Mhm.
you're like, how do I do that?
I don't know. My mindset was always, you gonna see me and you gonna hear me.
Mine
I
was
was
not.
I was so silent for so long.
Mhm.
I was so silent for so long and just angry about it. Like I was angry. I didn't feel like I belonged where I was living, like St. Louis. I didn't feel like I belonged in Missouri. I used to tell people all the time I was born in the wrong part of the country. I don't even think I should have been born in this country. Like I was so angry for so long. When I got to like my 20s, like around my daughter's age, 21, 22, I was done with that crap. I was like, listen, I'm just gonna have to get in trouble. Like
Mm. I
well
just
behaved women. What's that statement? Well behaved women never make history or something like that. I just
it was
I
like,
just got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to get in trouble sometimes. I'm not gonna get locked up. Like I'm not gonna need bail money, but I'm just gonna have to get in trouble sometimes because you're gonna see me. You're
I
gonna
think
hear
that's
me.
important to say though, because when we come of age, I think you get to a certain age where you're not really looking over your shoulder and too much caring about what people think. But there still are a lot of women that are. They're like, oh, I don't want to say anything. I just need to keep it quiet. I got to keep it hush hush. But use your voice. Your voice is power,
Mhm.
you know.
Absolutely. And I mean, this is the thing. People are gonna look at you whatever way they want to look at you, no matter what you do.
Hmm.
You cannot help the way people receive things through their lens, whether it be dirty, dusty, uh, off-putting, whatever. Their lens is their lens. So no matter what you do, I could say things in the nicest way, and people still call me intimidating.
Wow.
No, it's you're intimidated, and that's a you problem. That's not my problem. So as long as you know that you are doing the best to present, represent, model what good human qualities and discuss and communicate in a way that is effective for everybody, I'm not feeling bad about that.
Mm,
How you receive it is just like a bow and arrow. Minute you let that arrow go, you can't control where it goes.
mm.
So I'm to the point in my life where it's like, as adults, we need to get it together. Stop having this spirit of offense. Everything is offending everybody. You can say anything. Oh, you look nice today. Oh, I'm offended.
That is so true.
What do you mean just today?
Does it
You
mean
know,
didn't I look good yesterday?
and you're like, really? That's what we're doing today. I ain't got to say nothing else to you. But
Dr.
that's the
J,
thing.
you and I are so much alike.
It's like you won't get another compliment. Okay. But I'm just to the point where we need to be able to have these what we call in education courageous conversations. These tough conversations need to be had. And to get come like circle back to the parent thing, right? As parents, we need to look in the mirror. We
Mhm.
need to look at our kids and be like, okay, yes, there are things about our kids that would I look at my daughter all the time and I say she got it honest. She got it honest. I know what she got from me. So there are ways that I deal with and I talk to my daughter in such a way that, but for example, tone. I know my tone when I communicate with people sometimes was jacked up. My daughter 100% has that.
Oh,
100% when she gets, in a mood. And so now I talk to her about, okay, tone, I receive what you're saying, but the tone is stopping me from the whole message.
mm,
So I need you to be cognizant of your tone when you're upset or what have you trying to get some whatever, be cognizant of the tone. So those are conversations that we can have with our kids when we recognize those types of things. And I'm not taking it as if, oh, that's my fault, da, da, da. It's genetic. I mean, she my child. Did I not think she was gonna come out with something about me? You know, she is not gonna be angelic because I wasn't.
I think that's that pseudo angelic that we try to portray because
Yeah,
we want our children to go down a certain path. And it's that path of, it's not of least resistance, really. We don't want you to struggle. We don't want
yeah,
you to hurt. We don't want you to experience those things. So we paint this picture, right?
yeah.
And that's not that's really not realistic because you're right, they are, it's genetic. And I am with the, I don't paint a picture of an angelic. I don't do that with mine. I'm telling them the real deal. When they're going through things, okay, my daughter went through a situation. She was having housing insecurity. I told her about, okay, when I was your age, I went through that. And let me tell
Mhm.
you what I did. And
Mhm.
she followed those same steps to fix the issue.
Right.
You know.
Right. And that's what I mean, but that's what we have to do. My thing is this: when we don't tell them things, we enable them in a way too.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're just only telling them the good things, my daughter sat up here and saw me growing up, always in school. By the time I did my doctorate degree, I have 4 degrees. By the time I did my doctorate degree, I didn't even want to walk down I didn't even want to go to graduation.
I'm right
My
there. I
daughter
didn't go to
was, girl, my daughter was like, my daughter told me, "You've been in school all my life, mom. You're walking on that stage."
Wow.
Because she saw me in 9 years working on my doctorate lose my job 6 times.
Mm.
She saw me get laid off because of budget cuts 6 times in 9 years. We had to move several times because I never knew what my salary was going to be like. So I would try to be proactive and we would move, and do this and do it. And I would communicate with her throughout this process because I don't ever want her to look up and come from her dad's house after being there for a week and we living in a different spot. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
would involve her in packing up her room. What do you want for your room? Let's get a new comforter set. Every time we would move, she would get something different for her room just so I can make her feel comfortable about being in a different setting. Her room would always be set up by the time she came back from her dad's house. You know, her seeing me go through those things and me communicating through that, it was a tough process. Most people probably would have lost their mind 6 times in 9 years being laid off. You know what I'm saying? And having to
Mm-hmm.
try to figure out what you're going to do for bills and food and housing and all this type of stuff. So her seeing me go through that and I'm communicating with her through the process, I'm not losing my mind in front of her. I'm not breaking down crying in front of her, but that would have been okay with her. I cried on my graduation day
Mm.
that morning and I walked out the bathroom and my daughter was like, "You cried, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah."
I understand that. I did not.
Yeah,
When I did my doctorate degree, I didn't go to graduation. It was in
really?
Arizona. Yeah, it was in Arizona, and I didn't have the monetary funds to take all four of us out there to
Yeah,
go.
I can see that. I can
But
see
we
that.
celebrated. We celebrated
Good.
because, I wanted to celebrate that. I think one of the reasons why my kids saw me go to school as well, bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate, they were there. They saw it. And one of the reasons why I did it is because I wanted them to know that it was achievable, but also for the same reasons. I wanted to offer some stability financially.
Right.
And for me, I saw that way through education,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
definitely there was insecurities. There were times when I didn't know. I talk about that. I've talked about how there were times we had food insecurity,
Yeah.
but I communicated, this is what we're having, this is the budget, this is how much
Yep.
I can spend, and we will be okay. Even
Exactly.
if deep down I was like, well, I'll eat last,
Hello. Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Why not?
so
I
we
mean,
I understand that.
yeah. I mean, but I think that we as parents, a lot of times, yes, I think every parent wants more for their child than they had. But there were times with my daughter where she didn't necessarily have everything that I had, but
Mhm.
she was just as happy.
Oh, yes. It's
So
kinda
we
like
need
that,
to
we bought you spend $500 on the Christmas toys, and they play with the boxes.
hello or go play with some dirt outside.
Play with the cotton pads.
A mound of dirt outside. And I think that working in education gave me a different view
And
because,
why is that?
because I would see kids before I had my daughter, before I was married, I was working in education. So I would see kids who went through divorce, or see kids with single parents and things like that. And then seeing them so happy, like at school with friends, and they got on the little dusty pants, the little shirt, and they outside at the playground, they're playing in a mound of dirt. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we digging, you know, doing plants outside at school and stuff like that. And it's like, these kids don't need all of this crap that people want to give them. They give them phones, you know, iPads, all this type of stuff to make them shoot and go away and get out of their face. That's what they do. And it's about you as the parent not wanting to interact with your child. And that's a problem. You know, but I see that it, kids don't need, you know what they need? They need you. They need your presence. They need you to be present when you are with them, not on the phone, not on the iPad, not looking at the TV. You could be playing a little game with them or something like that. They want your attention. They want to talk to you. And then we wonder why when they get to be teenagers, they go into this shell. What type of foundation have you built for them to communicate with you up until that point?
I
So
can remember when mine, my older ones, because it's an age gap between the youngest and the older ones, about 7 and 9 years.
ooh,
And we, yeah, girl, yeah,
girl.
that's a conversation over drinks. Um, and we'd be in the car, and the older ones would be in the back, and they'd get in the car and they put these ear, and then it wasn't AirPods. They would just put the
Your
head,
earbuds,
yeah, the
yeah.
earbuds in, and I could hear their music with my music, and nobody could hear me. So it had got to the point where I had a rule in the car. If I can hear your music and if you can't hear me, then you don't need it.
Mm-mm.
And
That's
it
true.
had gotten to a place where now they would get in the car and actually have a conversation. Because essentially, I was saying, don't put it on. But I didn't want to say, don't put that on. I would say, if I can hear your music, or if you can't hear me, then you don't need it.
Right. And
And
that
I
makes
think
sense.
that helped in their teen years. What do you think? How would a parent address that? Because we have empty nesters that they're taking their kids off to college and they're rediscovering, but we also have those parents that my baby's going to be a freshman. My baby's going to be a senior. What's your take?
I think I spent the most time with my daughter between junior and senior year. Like her junior and senior years in high school, I spent the most time with my daughter. She ended up coming to stay with me full time during her junior year. And just the whole college process, all that type of stuff, applying for colleges and things like that. It's very important to spend time with your babies because, you know, when they leave for college, the trajectory of them spending time with you goes down significantly. The
Mhm.
percentage, the amount of time that they spend with you when they graduate high school, after they graduate high school, decreases over the rest of your lifetime
Mhm.
as their parent. So those high school years are very important. People think that you should be more hands off because oh they got it, you know. They big enough to go to the sports, they big enough to get on the bus, they big enough to do all this stuff by themselves. But think about the amount of time that you're actually going to spend with them after they leave your home senior year of high school, if they're going to college, or even if they're staying at your home.
Yes.
Just because they're at home doesn't mean they're at home.
Mhm.
They're going to be spending more time with friends, more time out, all of that instead of spending time with you at home. So I talk to my married friends all the time about this because they have kids that are about to graduate high school. And I'm like, you got a whole husband.
Mhm. And what's the response? They're still like, what are
Appreciate your whole husband, junior and senior year, especially because when that senior year is over, your babies that you focused on all this time during your marriage, where you might have missed date nights and all that type of stuff, you're going to have plenty of time on your hands when that baby leaves. But you need to rediscover your husband now.
So reinventing the empty nest has a lot of discovery, because you're saying rediscover your husband now, but what if they haven't rediscovered themselves?
That's another issue. That is another issue, because I talked to one of my friends and she said that out of her mouth. She said, I don't know what to do with myself, because she didn't have any hobbies. She didn't have, her kids were her hobby, running them around to sports and all that type of stuff. That was her hobby. So when her kids left in a matter of a 2 year span, one left out first and then another left out the next year. Um, she didn't know, and had a whole husband at home.
I think
But
that rediscovery period is really challenging too, because the kids bring the noise and the energy and the distraction from
ooh, I was
all
gonna
of
say
the
that.
things that we don't want to work on internally, that's bouncing around in our minds. But when they're gone and it's
Yes,
quiet
yeah,
and
you
you
get in
have
your head.
alone time with your mind,
That's not a good place to be sometimes. It's not. I'm telling you, my mind gets dark and twisty sometimes.
mm,
Like, and I'm sure everybody's the we all born in sin. So my, you need something. You
mhm,
need to have hobbies. You need to have girlfriends. You need to have all of these things that to fill your life, to have a fulfilled life after your kids go, to fulfill theirs. I
mm,
mean, that's what you raise them up to be. I raised my daughter to be a whole good human. I try my best. And now she has to go out and she has to fulfill her life and her dreams and her purpose and all of that. That's what I did. I didn't have all those. I cried when I left my daughter at um college for about 2 minutes in the car on the
2
drive.
minutes. That's it.
2 minutes. That was it.
I had a friend that cried all the way home. I said, "Girl, it was no restaurants for you to stop at? You couldn't do a happy hour? What's wrong with you?"
That's what I did. I took two girlfriends with me on the road trip. And my daughter loves it to this day. She always asks me if I'm bringing my girlfriends back to campus, like to visit her. I took two of my girlfriends with me on the 12-hour road trip from St. Louis to Houston. And we packed her up. We dropped her off, got her room set up, all that type of stuff, all three of us. And then I got sad for like 2 minutes. And then they was like, girl, let's go get some drinks. I was like, okay.
And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Let's celebrate this victory.
That's what they said. We're gonna celebrate. You just dropped your baby off at college, girl. Like,
Mhm. Let's celebrate this victory. And
and
that's
they said we're
really
gonna
the
come
point
back
of
when she
more.
graduate. Exactly. We're gonna come back when she graduate and we're gonna celebrate again. And that is next year.
I know that's right. Celebrate the victory. You never stop being available and being present for your children. You just don't.
Mm-mm.
The amount of time that you're available or the circumstance may change, but
Yeah.
that doesn't go away. And I have run across a couple different things that I can't wait to ask you about. I had one girlfriend that really had a problem with her child taking a gap year. The child pushed for the gap year. Had it.
Okay.
Mom was mad for 6 months of that gap year.
Mm,
Yes, because the
really?
idea was you leave and you continue. What is your take on that for parents that see a gap year as maybe a threat, or maybe a fork in the road that you will not go to school? What is your take on that?
I'm gonna say let it go, man. Okay, so
Yeah.
you know, I have that tattooed on me, like right here.
Let-
Let it go. Okay. Just let it go. Um our once again, the way we grew up, that was our parents' thought. You know, you go to college, you get out of college, you on your own. Like you're
Mhm.
not coming back home. I'm gonna tell you, I went back home to stay with my parents as an adult, and then with my child, maybe 2 or 3 times in my adult life. One of those times they were having health issues and I needed to. But the other 2 times it was because I was in transition with my daughter. And
Mhm.
my parents, always welcomed me back home. As long as they had a room or two or whatever, they always welcomed my sister and I back home. So my thing is this, it's interesting that you asked that question because I literally just had this conversation with my daughter about her graduating next year. What we getting ready to do, babe? Like, where you going? How you living? Like, what we doing? Because I am remote worker. I can live anywhere in this country or out of the country, which we just talked about. So I was like, I don't know if I want to. I don't know if I want to be planted here, where I am. So I may be moving. I don't know. But I want to see with her first where she was going to be and where her head is about when she graduates. At first, she wanted to go to graduate school. Now she's saying, Mom, I'm exhausted. Like, and she is. She's exhausted. All of these 4 years of college have really worked her out.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that. I don't have a problem with that. I told her, if you're going to come live with me, which I'm just planning that she's going to come live with me because I know she ain't going back to St. Louis with her daddy. So I'll make sure that I have a room. You will pay some rent, even if I just take that rent and go put it in a savings account. So when she needs a house or wants to get an apartment, she'll have something. Even if it's she's staying with me for a year, think about it, $300 a month, you
Yeah.
know, over 12 months, that's $3,600 she can take with her for whatever. I understand that it may be an interruption to your adult life, like your empty nester life, since you've gotten used to it. But think about the foundation that they need to set nowadays, especially. Like, it's not easy. It's not as easy to find a job out here unless you're in certain industries. The jobs might not pay as much. Them coming, even her coming out of college, she's going into I'm sorry, athletics training. She wants to work for a football team, things like that. They may need experience once again, grit.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff trumps a degree most of the time anyway. A lot of these industries are going to experience based type interviews and things like that. So I understand that it may be an interruption to your empty nesting time. But once again, think about how once they're gone, once they're married to somebody else and have their own families and things like that, wouldn't you want them to take you in at some
Mm.
point if you needed it? I know I would want my daughter, if she possibly could. Can I go live with my daughter in my old age instead of going to a home? I don't want to go to. You might as well just Dr. Kevorkian and me if you're gonna send me to some of these nursing homes. I'm serious. Like, some of these kids in these nursing homes, it's work ain't
Right.
treating folks right. You know what I'm saying? I have seen it myself with some of my own relatives. It's heartbreaking how they treat these seniors. But I mean, just have some grace, man. Have some
I
grace.
like that. Have some grace because I think it is very different now. The cost of living is to get an apartment and the amount of money that someone needs to have to get an apartment. It is stressful.
It is. It
It is
is.
stressful. Learning how to budget. Now, in college, you don't have a lot of fundage. You get used to eating ramen.
Hello, or in the cafeteria if you got a meal plan.
Okay, and unless you run out of your meal plan for the but that's a daily struggle for a lot of people, food insecurity, housing insecurity, because
Absolutely.
today the cost of living to get an apartment, the first month's rent, the last month's rent, and the deposit,
It's expensive.
it's
It's super
expensive.
expensive. Yeah. So I mean, I understand I understand how people might be upset, but once again, try to embrace the presence of your child being at home. Put some parameters in place though. Even though they are adults, they're still living under your roof and they're gonna have to abide by rules. That might make them want to get out quicker. I mean, to be honest. But
That's an old school trick. I think by some of my parents did. No,
right.
no shade, mom. No shade.
I mean, it is. I mean, but there has to be some respectful parameters put in place because it's not your home. You know what I'm saying? Like, you walking up in here at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
What? Huh? Like that. That's not what we're doing here. So there's conversations that need to be had around what framework are we working in, with you staying here. You know, are you going to pay some rent, or are you going to pay utilities? Are you going to get your own food? Things like that. Because
Expensive too.
food is expensive too. You know, and until they start paying for they eating out every day and all this type of they DoorDash, they don't understand that money don't grow on trees, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of you as the once again as the a parent, as the parent, you're still the parent, even though they're adults. You as the parent need to put some parameters in place if your child is coming back home to live for a gap year or what have you. That will make the transition probably easier if they know that they still have some responsibility in this. You're not just coming and squatting and
Mm-hmm.
doing nothing. You're going to be out there working a job. You're going to be doing a certificate. You're going to be doing something. You're not just sitting up in here while I'm working. So think about it as a parent. What are your expectations for your child moving back home for that gap year? And tell them that before they actually do it. Like I already told my daughter, and she ain't even started senior year. You come back here, you staying with me. Your room is not rent free. It's
So
not
you
rent
setting the
free.
boundaries right off and that's important. So
Yeah,
talking about your boundaries, talking about your deal breakers, talking about your expectations, talking about how they can help you.
right. Exactly. I mean, your room's not rent free. Your foods. I'm not buying no food. You're gonna be buying some food. Like I don't care if the rent is even $100 a month,
Mm-hmm.
like or $200 a month, or you want to pay these utilities. That's $100 or more a month themselves, especially if you got 2, 3 people in your spot.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody leaving on lights and crap. Now, when they got to pay them utilities, I bet you they're gonna walk around turning off some lights and water.
I agree.
You know?
I have two additional questions for you.
Okay.
So, just recently, affirmative action in colleges were overturned. And it's definitely going to affect minorities and people of color. And being in education, Dr. J, as long as you have, what is your take on the overturning of affirmative action in
I'm so
colleges?
sick of these people. I am so sick of these people. I just have to be honest.
That's right, folks. We went there on Me Time with Mind to Stay Vibe. You're like, Renee, this is supposed to be our time to be kind to your mind. Hey, sometimes we got to just shake up your mind just a little bit.
I am so sick of these people who have never. It's just like the whole mindset is jacked up around education today, um, amongst other things. But when you have people sitting on the Supreme Court who are so detached from real life out here in these streets, they they're never going to get it. And when you have people even of color who have this mindset of, oh, you just pull yourself up by your bootstrap. We ain't never had no bootstraps. Did we have boots coming over? I mean,
Mhm.
huh? Like, think about where we started. Just because you were afforded certain things, you worked hard. Yes, I don't have any problem with working hard. I work hard myself, like to get to where I am or what have you. And I'm still working hard to get to where I want to be. I think it's a lot of people out here like that. But I think also that the mindset is just jacked. And we're not thinking about everything that went on in order for these laws that they are overturning to be put in place. It's like we forgot the history.
Mm.
We don't want to know the real history of this country, which is kill, steal, and destroy. But we also don't want to acknowledge just the recent history.
Mm.
Those laws weren't even put into place that long ago. What, maybe 50 years?
Mhm.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I mean, so it's just like, come on, man. You know, and the assault that we have against the educators who are working in a system that wasn't even created for diversity of thought, diversity of race or ethnicity, really diversity of anything, because the education system was created for workers, just to create workers, not doers, not creators, just workers. It was created to indoctrinate
Mm,
people to the so-called USA, democracy, supposedly. So it's just like, I think we have lost track. We really have gone off track. I don't even know if the track even exists anymore, because the
mm,
light bulb sure don't. The light bulb ain't coming on in anybody's mind right now. It seems like in the Supreme Court or in Congress. I mean, we're fighting over small stuff when things that really matter, like our environment and, water, food issues.
mhm,
Everybody getting all these diseases because pharmaceutical companies want their money. Like, the real stuff that we need to be talking about is getting overshadowed with all this minutia. Like, you taking away Roe versus Wade, you taking away all of these just things that should be just human rights,
mm.
just humans. It ain't got nothing to do with race or ethnicity, just humans. And other countries looking at us, laughing at us,
Yeah.
because they're like, you all are some idiots. Some straight
I,
up idiots. So I'm tired of educators like getting, and people who want to be educated, educators who are doing the educating, and people who want to be educated are getting hit like blindsided at every turn. It's like, what do y'all want? Just a whole country of dummies? Because we already got enough sitting in our government. I mean, you want people that don't think, just people that just follow. They want widgets.
mm,
And that's not how we're made. We're humans, we're people, we evolve. But we can obviously see that they taking us back.
yeah.
They're reverting. Like, it's like we're going back to the 1950s, 60s. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I'm just tired of seeing educators beat up because of it. Because we have good educators out here who are trying to tell children, who are trying to tell kids and raise thinkers,
Hmm.
raise creators. They're trying to have these kids be who they are and what they are. And they just keep getting blindsided with all this crap. It's,
I
it's
agree
sad.
with that. When you said that, educator popped in my head. I don't even know if he's still teaching, but I went to a performing arts school, and I had a French teacher, Mr. Conradi. Now this man would dance, whatever he had to do for you to love French.
See?
But he would always end the class and say, "You got to use your mind. You got to be able to think."
Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you don't, what do we end up with?
I don't even, I could have given an answer to that. Um,
People in our government, the people that are running our government.
it is definitely a change in time. I think having an educator on, and I'm so glad that you're on today, because it is an issue. Education is definitely something that we need to be talking about and striving for. And depending on where you are and where you live, the quality of the education that you receive is even different.
Exactly. And I mean, you can look at it in a whole lot of different ways. People talk about, Black women becoming more Black women becoming entrepreneurs in the last few years than they ever have. More Black women getting degrees more than they ever have, and things like that. You can look at it as a race thing if you want to. It's actually a human thing,
Mm,
because we have more than just Black women in this country.
yeah.
We have just in Texas alone, French people, Haitian people, Mexican people, Belizean people, African people. We have more than just that in this country. And people come here from other countries for education,
Mm.
for
That is so true.
education.
Yeah.
Because to them, education is their passport to get out of the countries that they're in or the slums that they're in or whatever, just like we're trying to do. Here. So it's just like you're not just hurting one race or ethnicity of people. You're hurting everybody. You're hurting the country by not people gonna stop coming here for education because of that.
Mm.
Do you not see the widespread effect? Everything affects everything. Do you not see the widespread effect that has? It's not just a black or white thing. It's an everybody thing. So we're hurting ourselves because you know how many people come over here from other countries
Yeah.
to go to school just on student visas?
Yeah. You're absolutely right there.
What does that? What does that do for them? You're taking away tuition from top schools in this country. Then, in that case, if
Mhm.
they don't want any diversity, you're taking away some of the brightest minds in the medical industry, the legal industry, and education. All of that. It ain't just white folks that's smart. We already know that. It's a whole lot of people who are smart and creative. So it's just girl, I'm sick of.
I love how you put it because I think it needed to be said. And being a person that I went to school with my kids in tow, and I think about generations after that have to go to school, and that's their dream, that they
Mhm.
work so hard because their goal is to go to this college because that's what they wanted their entire lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And then you're going to force some of our students here to go over to other countries
Hmm.
to go to school because we have some of the top schools here. So in the world in certain things. So it's just like, okay, y'all want to play this game. You want to play this game with people's lives and you wonder why your life is in shambles.
Ooh.
It comes back. Keep thinking that it don't, but the Lord sees fit.
Mm.
In many in many cases, people don't want to receive that. But okay, keep
Mm.
keep playing with people's lives and livelihoods, and you wonder why you go through certain things in your life with your children, with your spouse, with your family. You okay? Play that
Wow.
game.
Y'all, look.
It's true.
People like, Me timers are like, whoa. Did Renee go there on the podcast today with this guest? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I have another question, and I can't wait to
Okay.
get this answer. What advice would you give your younger self to help cultivate self trust?
Ooh, wait, girl, that's a haymaker right there. I sound like my grandma. Uh, people say they throwing haymakers. Um, I think the biggest thing for me, because when I was younger, I was so angry, and I think it's because I didn't trust myself. You know how people say trust your gut.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a person who was kind of like, and people always talk about empaths.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a person who could feel energies of people, right? And so it would be certain people that I would be like, I can't be around that energy. I don't even want to be in the room. And people would look at me and be like, dang, she pink. I was the evil twin. I have a twin sister. I was the evil twin. They used to think my sister was so nice. And Jerry's the evil twin. No, Jerry just didn't. I always felt like I started to take on that identity of being the evil twin. Like people think I'm evil. Okay, that's fine. As I got older, I knew it was a discernment that I had. because every time I would say certain things or feel certain things, something would come to pass to show me, yeah, girl, you was right about that one. Like, you were right about that. And I'd be like, dang, all right. So I think what I would tell my younger self is, Jerry, I would have started my relationship with God earlier
Mm,
than what I did. We were always in church, but I was never really serious about my relationship, like creating, cultivating, like talking to, like journaling, things like that. I didn't worry about my relationship with God too much. I just kind of felt like He got me. He got me.
mm-hmm,
Um, so I think my younger self to trust me a little bit more had I had that with had I had that foundation a little bit more when I was younger, I think that I could be not further along, because right now I feel like God has me where He needs me,
mm-hmm.
and everything that I went through was for a reason. But I think I could have been more solid with me and more confident with me and the way that I was moving, not just worried about what other people thought. Because I worried about, people calling me, even like, dang, am I really being evil? I used to question myself a whole lot, which was what brought the anger.
Mm.
So when I got older, and I used to say all the time, I feel like I'm born in the wrong part of the country. I don't belong here. I do not belong in St. Louis. This is not my thing. Like my mindset's different. Da, 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 da. I found out not too long ago that that's not where I'm from. Like, I found out not too long ago that my sister and I were adopted.
Wow.
So our whole identity changed. You know, I'm Italian and I'm West African.
Wow.
So growing up all that time, I thought I was a Native American and African American because that's what my family was, right? So one of my best friends since I was 16, his name is Christopher. My best friend, when I talked to him and I told him I had to have him on like FaceTime because I wanted to see his face. And he was like, Jerry, he said, do you know how long you've been saying you didn't belong in this place? He was like, dog, since you've been 16 years old, you have been saying, I don't feel like I belong here.
Mm,
You say, you have been saying, I don't belong in St. Louis. Like, my mindset is just different. Not to say it's good or bad, but like I move a little bit different and things like that. He was like, man, he said, if this is not confirmation for you to trust yourself, he said, I don't know what else is. I don't know
mm.
what else is. And this is like, I'm 48 now. I'll be 49. This was last year. He was like, if he said, if you don't trust yourself, dog, he said, I trust you. He was like, I've been trusting you, but for this right here, he was like, this right here make a difference.
Oh my goodness.
So, I mean, what I would say to my younger self is, Jerry, you're the trust, trust that feeling that you had. I had that feeling for so long, and I was angry for so long being where I was. And then when I had my daughter, she didn't want to move and stuff like that. So I stayed in St. Louis. I did what I had to do. Work, got my degrees, all that type of stuff. Waited 10 years. My daughter went to college. I was out. When I
Mm.
say I was out 4 months later after dropping her off because I said, I got to go. And this is the place that had always been on my heart, that this is where I'm supposed to be right now.
Wow.
So what I would say to someone who is younger and you're feeling like something is not, like something's not clicking, something's not right. It will come to you what it is. Don't be angry about whatever it is, like how you're feeling or whatever. Make your move, walk in your purpose, do the things that you need to do right now so you can do what you want to do later on.
Mm.
because now I am living the life that, and I'm not rich. Like now I'm literally living the life as a consultant and working with school districts, all that type of stuff that I've been wanting. This is what I've been wanting to do. I love my jobs. And I say jobs. I love my
I picked
jobs.
up on that.
I even worked at Starbucks for a little while, and I loved working at Starbucks. I had 3 jobs at one point in time, and I was working all them suckers like, doo, 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 doo. Like I'm rocking it. Like 4:30 in the morning at Starbucks. I'm good. So my thing was, but I was happy to be like when I got here, it was just a different feeling. I was happy to do whatever I needed to do. Took me a while to find a full-time job. I used most of my retirement to move here. Like, so I'm starting over. But you know what? I'm so peaceful.
Mm.
I'm so peaceful in my heart. And that peace is priceless. So for, anybody who is not trusting what the Lord has put in you, I'm going to say you should. And build that relationship. Build that relationship with him just like you would build a relationship with a human. Because when the humans are gone, you'll still have him. And I'm just going to say it was last year was a mind blown year for me.
Mm.
Mind blown. And when I say it shifted my whole identity, I knew who I was, but I didn't know who I was.
Mm.
And so now I'm even worse because my attitude is like, huh? What? Huh? God got me.
And on that note, God got me.
Exactly. Always, always.
It has been a pleasure to have you on this podcast. Look, girl, we could laugh for hours. Okay. And I hope you'll come back and just look because you're bringing me some joy. It's hard, I'm loving it. You taking me there. And the only one that's can really do is my sisters. Ebony was my younger sister was on the podcast and she took me there immediately. I was like, we can't do it. She was like, yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
So I enjoyed having you on, and I hope you come back. I hope
I
you come
do.
back.
Absolutely. I would love it. I absolutely will. Anytime. Just let me know.
Yes. Oh, me timers. This is like, oh my gosh. Look, you heard it here first on Me Time with Mind Escape Vibe, where it is your time to be kind to your mind. You guys have a great day now.